Yes.
Sorry.
Can we get a feedback about
Excuse me, sorry.
What?
Can we get your comment on Australia's intention to seek another alternative way on MH17?
Well, Australia, I believe, would do better if it strictly implement, for starters, Resolution 2166, because most of the demands of this resolution were ignored by Australia and by the countries who created this joint investigation group. Originally, by the way, these were 4 countries: Australia, Netherlands, Belgium, and Ukraine. They created this group, announced about the creation of this group on the basis of their bilateral agreements last August 2014, without even inviting Malaysia. This was a thing which raised many questions. Malaysia managed to join this group only in December 2014, so for 5 months Malaysia was out of the criminal investigation. I believe it was the fact which immediately caused questions as to how this investigation started. The Security Council Resolution 2166 stated that this investigation must be comprehensive, thorough, independent, international, under the authority of International Civil Aviation Organization. Such authority is not being asked for. International Civil Aviation Organization is participating, on the secondary roles in these discussions. In addition to this criminal investigation, there is also a technical investigation group where more countries were invited, including Russia. But at least Russian participants do not get all information circulated to some other members of this group. The Security Council resolution required the Secretary General of the United Nations to submit recommendations as to how the UN can facilitate and support the investigation. Such recommendations were not submitted to the Security Council. Russia convened the Security Council consultations a couple of times last year, drawing attention to the fact that the Council itself expressed its desire to be fully involved in monitoring the investigation. We proposed to send the mission of the Security Council to the area of this tragedy, just to see with their own eyes. And we also proposed for the Secretary General to appoint his special envoy to follow this investigative process. Both proposals were not supported, they were rejected, including by those very countries who now insist that there must be a Security Council decision on the tribunal. We, Russia, are the only country who submitted information from our radars, who were monitoring the sky on the day of the disaster. Our American colleagues said that they possess satellite images, which they never made public. Ukrainians were repeatedly asked to submit the recordings of the conversations between the air traffic controllers, between control tower and the planes which were flying on that day in that area. This was not done either. So we believe that before anything else, the investigation must be completed, and it must be completed with full respect to the demands of the Resolution 2166, which I listed and which are not being implemented. I hope that this would allow, the full implementation of this resolution, free and fair consideration of all the facts. This would allow to submit a report which would be comprehensive, which would allow all of us to know the truth, first of all to Malaysians, to other countries whose citizens died in this terrible incident, and which would allow for the culprits to be brought to justice. One last thing. The interim report which was submitted, circulated to International Civil Aviation Organization says that the experts established that the plane was hit by numerous high-energy particles. Any expert who has something to do with investigation of civil aviation disasters would tell you that it is very easy to pick up those particles and to make them analyzed, to have them analyzed, to know where this particular missile was produced and whose army have this particular missile employed by its forces. To all of my knowledge, at least this was never announced, this was never confirmed, such analysis was not conducted. And the statements which were made on the second or third day after the disaster, that this was a Russian-made missile system called Buk, of course we all heard them. But the next step, if people were so convinced that this is the case, the next step should have been to immediately approach the company which produces these missiles. It's called Almaz-Antey. It's a Russian company, and it produces missiles, and these missiles are being employed by the armies of many post-Soviet republics. But this company was never approached, and then the experts of this company, on their own, made their own study, which they made public on the 2nd of June this year. It's available on the internet. It's a very interesting study. I recommend you to take a look at it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.